Serena was 40, had never been married, and was lonelier than she'd ever been in her life. And she knew why. It was because she still hadn't found her soulmate, if there was such a thing, and the fact that she had just learned 3 days ago that her so-called significant other, Tim, was sleeping with another woman. Which might not have been so surprising had Tim not been claiming for months, nearly a year to be exact, that he loved her and that she was everything any man could want in a woman. Although now, as Serena thought back on their overall relationship, she couldn't deny how obsessive and protective he had been when it came to his smartphone. He'd almost always kept it on silent, claiming that he didn't want a single thing to interrupt the quality time they spent together. And he also rarely checked his phone in front of her for missed calls or text messages. Worse, there had been a few times when Serena had traveled to out-of-town speaking engagements, and she hadn't been able to get in touch with him at all. But then, like clockwork, he would finally call her back the next morning, waking her up and apologizing for dropping off to sleep a lot earlier than usual, or for not seeing that she had called him until that very moment. Serena had, of course, been suspicious, the same as she had been of every man she'd dated, but this time around she had tried to be more trusting. She told herself that being paranoid, skeptical, and insecure wasn't good, and that maybe Tim really did love her as much as he said he did. She had also decided that he didn't seem like the kind of man who would be unfaithful, not with his regularly talking about his belief in God, and the fact that he seemed to have a huge amount of respect for her and her decision to remain celibate. Of course, this hadn't always been Serena's normal way of thinking, but then a couple of years ago, she had begun making her relationship with God a much bigger priority in her life. Then, after she and one of her best friends, Michelle, had attended this amazing Christian women's conference, they'd both decided they would no longer have sex outside of marriage. They talked about it for 2 days, both by phone and in person, and what had truly sealed the deal for them was when the keynote speaker had said, "When you have sex with someone, you willingly give them a part of your soul that you can never get back. So why not wait for the one man who genuinely loves you and who wants to spend the rest of his life with you?" But again, Serena had thought Tim was fine with her celibacy decision, and that they were good. That is, until his other woman had obviously found out about Serena and had decided to record the audio of Tim and her having sex, and then had sent the file to Serena's website email address. At first, Serena had wondered how the woman had even known who she was. But it wasn't as though Mitchell, Illinois was some huge metropolitan city. And for all Serena knew, this other woman could have seen her and Tim out on one of their many dates. It also wasn't as though most people in the city didn't know who Serena was, what with her having a popular lifestyle blog and being a nationally known speaker. Serena dropped down onto her navy blue leather sofa, leaned back into the corner of it, pulled her knees up close to her body, and rested her elbows against the tops of her thighs. She pulled her ponytail around and onto her left shoulder, and without warning, tears flowed down her high cheekbones. She was so unhappy, and the more she mentally replayed that raunchy, X-rated audio recording and tossed one awful thought through her mind after another, she wondered what was wrong with her, and why, after all these years of dating, one man after another, she hadn't so much as been engaged before. In fact, no one had ever even asked her for her hand in marriage. That is, unless you counted that time when one of her former high school classmates had seen her dining at a restaurant, and out of nowhere declared how much he had secretly always loved her, how he had never stopped loving her, and that if she would have him, he would marry her any time she wanted. Serena had been stunned, to say the least, and while she hadn't wanted to hurt his feelings, all she'd been able to think about was how not only did she barely remember him, he also wasn't her type. Not even close.